Good evening and welcome to our session 2 for development economics. And now, as I mentioned you last week, so today we are going to discuss another really interesting topic, which I will say the dependency and world systems theory, whether they're still relevant, right? Now, I don't know to what extent you all get some initial preparation for this session, because if you search about this dependency theory and even world systems theory, you may find a lot of interesting things. Even then, I will see you may find a lot of interesting questions as well, right? Now, what I will do within this session going to be basically first an introduction to these two theories, but I am not going to say everything about these theories here in this lecture. That is not my purpose, right? So what my purpose is basically first to elaborate essentials of dependency as well as the world systems theory, and then to move forward with the discussion, what is that still relevant. So then I will discuss, so then how whether will apply for recent data, and even earlier how it was applied for economy. So likewise. So then now it's like a review on these theories, while first undefined elements of these theories, and then we are going to review these theories, right? So that is what we are going to do. That's why I said it's better if you had some initial preparation, because so now once you see the topic, so then you can just search the topic and see what's the content. So that will be advantage for you to engage well with this session. Now, let me move forward. And first, I thought of use some, interesting pictures. So first, see this one. So what you see here. So can you say anything about this picture? Just have a look and try to say something. Whatever you think about this picture.
Sir?
Oh, yes.
United States, I think they are speaking about US, and the dollars has been mentioned, and the economy, and people are running away from this system.
Okay.
And
so then it's like whatever. Now we can see these United States symbols, right? So the dollar, their flag, and their big vehicles, whatever their culture, and even this the huge bulldozer which hacked the so-called United States, following the globe, right? It's like the face is like the globe, right? The whole world throughout their currency regime. Maybe you can see something like that, isn't it? So, however, the whole global system tried to run out of US, whatever this strength, but still is following. Right. So, what about this picture?
so I think earlier the US is dollar is a hard currency, which facilitate, influence all other countries. That's what the whole world.
Exactly. That's the hidden meaning behind that picture. Yes. Great. So now, what do you think about this picture? Have a look and try to say your ideas. Just say your idea. You don't need to come up with philosophical kind of idea for this. You just feel free to say what you will observe here, what you can see here.
The early picture, I think US only has influence. Here, the veto, NAFTA, and all the global, the bilateral or multilateral agreements, and World Trade, I mean, all the, I mean, how to say this? This, I mean, many countries come together and they influence for the particular economy, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So even you can see a few couple of sheep or goats. What we'll see, who try to carry a lot of MNCs, multinational corporation institutions, organizations, huge package there. So
So
yes.
maybe earlier the technology or something influence here. Everything. It's also my interpretation. I mean, in early picture, the technology or the machineries and equipment was heavily used, but here
Yeah.
in this system, this human and animals are used to carry out the, I mean, most of the activities.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then even symbolically it says, see, you can see it's like, so who's this person? Do you know anything about this so-called individual figure? What you can see here, this tall figure with this hat, and now if you got a color picture of this person, you may see the American colors on his hat and his coat and his trouser. I don't know whether you heard of this symbolic character we call Uncle Sam, right? So Uncle Sam represent, it's a symbol of global franchises. So I will let you research more about these things. I will not say everything here, right? And then what we can see, Uncle Sam kind of nudging, even mandating these animals to carry out the lot of organizations, NGOs. You can see WOD, NAFTA, McDonald's, and so on, so on. So it will say what so this Lord carried uh, throughout the system, whatever existing system, as a result of the push which always given by the United States. I don't know. So that's also not a complete interpretation, but you can think further about this picture as well. And so, what about this picture? What do you think about this picture? So we can see, yeah, a handshake and some tanks going from here to there. Any idea? So even others can join. Yes.
Voice some kind of agreement.
Yes. Yes. Of course. Of course. This we know globally we heard a lot of agreements in bilateral, multilateral. It is called these agreements now. So the real time picture will be, yeah. So they are having an agreement. So they are having mutual cooperations and so on. And then maybe this will kind of strategy for transferring military power or to enrich military power for a particular country or for a particular domination. Who knows? So this image even try to say something like that. And what about this picture? What do you think about this? So what you can see here, the region, what is that?
Like what's happened in Sri Lankan currency. I mean, in Sri Lanka also, I think foreign reserve, most of nearly 1.7 or something remain as a Chinese yuan.
Okay.
Likewise, the Chinese has influence over the is it South America.
So this picture try to say it's Africa. Even the person kind of African, the Negro look there with that person also who is doing this painting.
Right.
Maybe the leader of so-called countries. And so what this person is doing? He's painting the Chinese flag through the paint which is called Chinese aid, isn't it? So you see now the hidden meaning of this picture. So it's not that much hidden. You can directly get the idea, isn't it?
China helped to, I mean, African countries. So,
Yeah, yes. And then the last picture before our discussion is this. So what you can see here.
is it China is giving the debt to, I mean, American countries or America?
Because if you connect with the previous one, you might see it that way, but this is rather giving debt to America. China is replacing American flag with Chinese values.
Yeah.
So what it means, so I will come to that so-called topic soon, right? So what it means exactly. So we call it, hegemonic transferring mechanism. So now here what exactly happening is so we are in a hegemon which we call led by US, United States and its authority. And then now what China is doing, China is trying to grab that hegemony. And now what we had is the American flag on the so-called board, we'll say the big board which is called hegemony, and then now China painting on it and try to show up that we are the hegemony, kind of. So now, so we'll discuss more about this hegemony matter. So because it is from system theory, even dependency theory, so this is one of very important elements in this discussion. Now, yes.
I think we can interpret in this way as well, I think. And China is trying to dominate US or in such way, in economical wise, China is trying to reach the US position or overcome.
Of course. That is exactly which reflects through this picture. China try to invade American position, the global position, in using different strategies. So that's what this picture even try to showcase. Right. Now, even I initiate this picture show first with some pictures about US strength, and then later I attempt to show you that it's gonna be changing because of China, kind of thing, isn't it? And now, even this will say you something like this, isn't it? Now, I don't know whether you will agree or you can say you on thoughts of this. Power does not have an owner. What do you think about this statement? So power means what? So here we discuss about global power, right? So then it's it contain it consists a lot of powers: economic power, military power, and most of these important powers altogether we call power here, right? And then now here what it try to say, power does not have an owner. So we have this so-called power, and which may belong to some particular country for a certain time, and then that will transfer for another country once they showcase that they are the suitable country or whatever the capacity for this power. So then now we see it's like China try to say that we are the power now. So we are the power, global power. And then now we are going to be the owners or caretakers, rather owners, of course. So then it's like simply a World Cup, right? So because now when it's come to World Cup, so maybe FIFA or maybe cricket, whatever, it's the nominal idea of that is we are transferring cup, isn't it? So we'll keep it, we will be the caretaker once we win it, or once we won it, and then the next time if we lose it, so we have to give it to the country which won it. So this also seems like a World Cup for countries. So if you think this is the World Cup, so the powers, so-called powers, so they are trying to win it, right? So we are in such a game, so we are in such a situation, and so as Sri Lankans, we not think about that at the moment. Rather, we have to think of ourselves, our focus. But so we'll see whether our this problem on our focus also because of such things. So we'll see the theories we are going to discuss and whether it's relevant and whether how these things going on. Okay. And now, first, let me then move to two theories. First, the dependence theory. Now, did you had any readings about this theory before the session today? Now, do you know anything about this? And even the other theory, world systems theory. Any points that you can make before the discussion about these two theories? Feel free, even if you didn't read anything, but still you can try to say something. If you have any idea, because even when it's for applied industrial economics, near third year, first semester, we discussed a bit about, I think, systems theory. I mean, at the very first session, we discussed minor components about system theory, isn't it? But we didn't went in deep there. Now, today we'll discuss important elements of both theories together. And now, if you stay silent, so then I will move forward. But feel free to engage anytime, right? Where I will start the discussion with this question. What is that? Why are so many countries in the world not developing? So it means now even in Sri Lanka context, people say, everyone say, even economists say, policymakers say, even so-called different types of analytical perspectives in the media, you can see people even say, popular people say, even with a smile, they say like this, Sri Lanka is still developing. Now, even when I was a kid, it's developing, and now it's developing, and even in future it will be developing, isn't it? So why is that? So that's the fundamental question. First, this dependency theories, even the world system theories ask. So why are so many countries in the world not developing? I mean, still say it so-called just developing, not getting developed. Right. Now, once we have this question, so basically we may have some answers for this question. Even you can try out your answer if you have anything. What do you think? Do you have any answer for this? You can say your perspective on it. So why most of countries not developing? I mean, not become developed countries, though they are always say so-called still developing, and so on. Feel free to say your views.
So I think the one thing would be the innovative productive mechanism, and when we take about industrial sectors and all, the diversification is less, as we studied in applied industrial economy as well, and the dependency, when one country depend on another country, the purpose matter. I mean, in Sri Lanka depend on, I mean, Sri Lanka depend on China, and the China's purpose is totally different. They are just focusing on their own benefits, and when they give the loans and facilities, they just focus on their own benefits and issue it. But at the same time, Japan also influences Sri Lanka, but they are giving more welfare loans and also without any condition. So that's not a direct answer for this question. I mean, for the, I mean, innovative mechanism.
Of course. So now your answer is beyond traditional answers. That's good. So now when it's called traditional answers for this, usually we have two traditional answers. What are these? Like so people will usually say, because this particular country or countries may pursue wrong economic policy. Because of wrong economic policy applications, they are still not developed. Still they are in struggle because they are using always wrong economic policies, policy options, application, right? And there's another answer that is even nowadays we can hear it here and there. What is that? So people will say so that because the governments are not less responsive, even less responsible, and also corrupted. So because of that, still our country is developing and will never develop because of that. So likewise, we can see statics, right? However, now what dependency theory says bit above or bit beyond this traditional perspective or traditional answer for this question. Now, what they are saying is more systematic. So, what they are saying is, so this is happening because the international structure we are having, or the international system we are having globally, not provide a proper chance for these countries to be developed. Or even it says like this: the international system we have prevent them from developing. International system prevent these countries from developing, right? So this is what basically they put as a benchmark. These dependency theories as well as the world system theories. Now, then what is try to say? Now, it try to say a nice point, and now we'll try to elaborate that with some, productive discussions. First, now according to these theories, they classify the global arena, or we call basically countries, to two major parts. Even in our applied economics first lesson, I mentioned this kind of thing, right? So there I said global south and global north, right? So the same thing here, even in detail, we can call it center and periphery. Right? So basically, we classify countries into two segments: center countries and periphery countries. So center countries means core countries. Center of something means very important, right? Periphery means beyond the center. So they are like less important, less in the important area. So they are like outliers. So this is how first we identify countries globally. And now, when it comes to world system theory, even there we have something in the middle, semi-periphery, right? If you could remember, so we have three types of countries according to the world systems theory: the center or the core countries, and semi-periphery countries and periphery countries. Now, when it comes to center countries, for example, we can think of countries with global power, even like US, like nowadays. So the China, I will not put it directly to this classification, because we'll move forward and see about that. So we can think of US, UK, likewise, the developed countries who are still having the power control. And now, in these countries, especially according to these theories, what happened was they got this industrial power, right? So they were the countries who got industrial power at the very first point. So then they got industrial power, and even they got technological power. They got research. So they are having these all high quality important features which require for betterment of an economy. And then when it comes to periphery countries, so they're having features like resource extraction, right? So we have resources, they have resources, and they then extract things out of resource, like mining, agriculture, likewise, right? So then they are, as I mentioned, agriculture based, right? So they are more into resource extraction, and they are more on division of labor. So their labor dependency is higher. So these are the things they have. These are the features we can see with periphery countries. So now this is how they distinct two versions of countries. And then even in the middle system theory, say the semi-periphery countries, they are the countries who will attempt to transfer their position from periphery to center. For example, China, for example, India. Right? So then now we can say India and China will be examples who are trying to transfer from periphery status towards the center. So they are improving themselves, right? So this is how they try to classify countries. And now the importance here is we can combine these ideas which made from dependency theories and also world system theories together, even while having some additionalizing from Marxist, neo-Marxist ideas, and we can develop a nice model about the global system, how this works. Right? So now I am going to demonstrate this model to you first, and then we can have further discussion. Where so first I will start like this. Now, according to these theories in common, in general, once we thoroughly study these both theories, so they are trying to say, as we even just discussed, we have different types of countries. So then now, finally, through a thorough analysis, we can recognize, of course, 4 types of countries. We can recognize 4 types of countries, right? So this 4 types of countries distinct using the notion, the benchmark, whether they are periphery or center, right? And so having that, the first type we call CC. CC, that means center of center. We call it center of center, CC, right? Hope you can see my slides properly, right? Which parallel to my discussion. And then we can see another type of country we call PC, right? Now CC means center of center. Then what means PC? PC means not police constable, right? PC means periphery of center. Periphery of center. So what means periphery of center? So now we have center of center. Center of center means the core countries. The countries like US, UK, who got power, right? Who got power? Even earlier Russia. So they got the power. So they got all other economic strength and all plus power. So they are the center of center. And now here periphery of center means even they got this economic strength. They are also developed countries like Japan, for example, right? But still they does not have that much of power. They don't have that much of global power. So they are the countries we call periphery of center, right? And then the next category we call CP, right? So what means CP here? CP means center of periphery. Center of periphery. So now then what means that? So now we have these periphery countries, right? And they are the best out of periphery, like what mentioned world system theory. They are like semi-periphery kind of. So the semi-periphery will be in between PC and DB, mostly with CP, with this the center of periphery, right? So then center of periphery means the best among periphery countries. For example, in say India, South Africa, Brazil, these such countries, right? And then we have the fourth category we call periphery of periphery. Periphery of periphery. So I don't know, nowadays we can put Sri Lanka without any hassle, right? And even we have a lot of countries like Afghanistan, Venezuela, and a lot of African countries. So likewise we have countries that we can put into this category. They are the poorest countries we call globally, and the countries having a lot of economic power problems and even a lot of even strategic problems. So once we have these all problems together, so we will be periphery anyway. So the Sri Lanka is getting to be performing well in our inflation performances, isn't it? So then we are moving fast toward this the very bottom of this category. So anyhow, so this is how we can classify countries while analyzing these two theories, right? Now then the next step, try to say another thing important. What is that? Now according to the dependency theories and even world system theories, now especially dependency theories, try to say then how countries depends on other countries or how countries depends on other. So here for this matter, they use the so-called term the division of labor, right? The division of labor. Now, what means division of labor? So what is happening here? Now, what is happening here is now as we discussed earlier. Now, for example, this center of center, these countries got the power, even strength, even technology, research capacity, and now either CP or PP, the center of periphery or periphery countries cannot survive themselves because they need to serve this at least center of center countries or the periphery of center countries to move forward with the successful venture. Even if it focus anything, so then they will need to serve for this center countries, right? Then what will happen basically? First, we can think it this way. Now, this center will always served by all other types of countries. So center will not serve back. I mean, they will not serve for other countries because they got all strength, even the power, political power, military power, such powers even with these countries. And then first we can think now. If you think of periphery of center, then they will serve center of center, right? And then if you think of center of periphery, so they have to serve center of center as well as periphery of center. And then if you think of periphery, so they have to serve center of center, center of periphery, even periphery of center. So now then this creates the network, right? This creates the network. Now here serve means depend because they don't have enough capacity for the success for production because they don't have industrial capacity, research capacity, technology. So then they need to depend, they need to serve. So then mostly this serve or service will happen through labor or division of labor. So through labor supply most probably, and even resource supply, right? Above that they cannot do things. So they are not in capacity to do things. So then that is what happened, right? So this is how then this dependency happens. And then now that's not the end of this theory. And then we have another concern which we call class division. So that's another important point which highlights in this theory, the class division and how that will affect the whole system. So what means class division? So we simply know, even once we discuss about inequality, we have higher concern about this class division, right? So now what it say according to this theory is, each country or each this type of countries have this class distinction, have this class difference. So no matter whether it is center of center or periphery of periphery, right? No matter, these all countries have this class difference. These all countries have this class difference. So then we can indicate it like this. You see, you can divide these countries while giving a small proportion for this one class of people and a bigger proportion for other class of the people, right? So now, what could be usually the small proportion in a country? Even we know from stat basically the lowest proportion which we call the richest, isn't it? The wealthier category. So then even this small proportion of these all countries which we call the wealthier category, right? And then we have higher proportion which are the non-wealthy, I mean the middle class or lower class poor people, they all together, right? And then even we know then even the theory says now each country, each system, even each type of country got this difference. Okay. And so this rich class, if we highlight them in gold color, as we will be the classic gold class. So then if you highlight this class, so they got even power within their system, in their countries. They are the elite. They are they are having so they are consuming the highest proportion of income, with a GDP, for example, in these countries, right? And even so they are having the autonomy or the control of a lot of businesses, financial matters, and so on things. Now even you can think of Sri Lanka, for example. The exactly the same thing happening. So now this proportion from each country always try to maintain their wealthiness, their context, their power. right? Their status. And even for this maintenance, they are maintaining a very nice network among these groups across different countries. Okay. So now center of center countries have this class, and even periphery of periphery countries also have this class. We have this category. Then they are having their own network, a nice network, a strategic network, and this network always support them mutually to maintain their class and this distance from the others in the society, right? Now, this maintenance or the survival of this class always create or move forward as a support system, and then that survival will not let, especially periphery countries, to grow further, right? Because that rich class, elite class, need to maintain their well-being. So then, because of that, they will not let others to go, or even in general, that will not let these countries to be developed, right? So then, also in the broader picture, this all countries got a system as a whole. So that's another important point made through these theories. So this the whole system altogether, which is happening here, called the capitalist system, right? That's called the capitalist system. Okay, so then this capitalist proportion, who could maintain their well-being, will avoid especially peripheral countries getting developed, and even so this structure altogether we call the capitalist structure. The system altogether we call the capitalist system there, right? Now you see it's a nice analysis, isn't it? Now, so throughout this series, what we can see is finally, so the whole system prevent, right, these periphery countries being developing. So that's what even they said earlier. I mean, that's what highlight. That's what they say, the international system. So this international system prevent periphery countries be developing or or becoming developed economy in one day, because they have to maintain their advantages, right? And because of that, these theories, especially dependent theories, and also through the world system theory, they say because of that, these countries, especially the periphery countries, are underdeveloped countries. So they said we cannot say developing countries. Rather, they said we have to call them underdeveloped countries, because they are forcefully stopped somewhere. So they can be, they have the capacity maybe, but they are underdeveloped. So they someone will not let them to go for or to reach their capacity over time. Now, so that is why they call these peripheral countries as underdeveloped countries, economies. So now you see, so this is what we can extract from these theories, right? So do you have anything to add, or if anything is not clear, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask now, and then after that we can go for our further material. Do you have anything to say, or any ideas, or any thought-provoking ideas maybe, or even any concerns, any problems you see here with this analysis, with these theories? I hope you all can hear me, right?
So it's clear. I think the capitalism and the wealth distribution, I mean, the rich people are becoming continuously, they are rich, and the poor are continuously treated as the poor.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
those
yeah.
are
That's
also
the core of this idea. Yes, of course. So even since we experienced that here also, no, in Sri Lanka. Now, so now anyhow, so now we have to assess that. That's why the question asked: is this theories or is this argument, is this logic still relevant? So that is what we are going to discuss next. Okay. Now for this discussion, what I am going to do is I am going to use a couple of my research work. So then referring to global, even Sri Lankan, South Asian context. So where we are going to discuss this matter, and so I will move forward with that method. So where you can feel free to say your views, ideas, or whatever you read about these things if you had any readings earlier, right? Now for this discussion, so whether this concept or ideology emphasized by the dependency and system theories relevant, is it works for our I mean last decade, or whether it was work for the previous couple of years, or whether this happening even now. So we have to think of this, right? So I will start with this global hegemonies. Now earlier I mentioned this term hegemony, right? So we'll start the discussion with the so-called concept global hegemonies, or simply we can call hegemony means power. So then it's like global powers, right? So global hegemony, even we can say global ruler, global monopoly. So these all will try to will say something about this term hegemony, but hegemony is not exactly similar to the terms we mentioned, but that they will reflect this idea, right? Now, first to discuss this matter, I will refer one of our articles, which called "Power Summons Power: Global Hegemonic Stability and Post for Economic Discourses in Sri Lanka," which we did in 2015. Myself and Dr. Kalpa Rajapaksa from Economics Department now. And so we did this, of course, when I was temporarily, when I was just passed out, when I was fourth year student, still 2015, no? I got my convocation in the mid of 2015. So I just complete my work, and then we did this study, and so I'm going to share some findings, even the procedure of this to discuss about hegemonies, and to discuss the relevance of the theories and the argument we happen to identify earlier. Right now, so here first, now if we try to identify hegemony, so here we provide one definition for hegemony. So you can even see that it says hegemony is an indirect form of administration through which the leader state rules geopolitically minor states by implied means of power. So that is a complete definition for hegemony. Or simply what it says, so then the countries who got power try to administrate other countries using that power. And this will happen geopolitically. Right? So then we can move forward for the term global hegemonic stability. So what means global hegemonic stability? Which means then the whole international system will stay stable when this particular leading country or this hegemonic country dominate world power. Now, for example, we can think of the United States. Now, once the United States considers the global power, the capital system will be there as it is. The system will survive. So, system will remain stable when we have the US as the global power. Just one example, right? And now, usually, when it comes to power of hegemony or hegemonic power, we have two types of powers, or we'll usually try to extract two types of powers. One is material power. So then we can identify material powers of the hegemony. So then military power, as you can see, population, I mean number of people, and even production. So there are few examples for material powers of a country, right? And then we have normative power as well, right? So for example, media, which is really important, right? So media can do a lot globally, even in Sri Lanka, we know how is it going. Religion, ethnicity, knowledge and skills. So they all are normative power. So then once both global material power and normative power concentrate or accumulated into a country, that will become automatically hegemony. That's what about US. And then in later now China still trying to be, right? So this is the idea of hegemony, right? And then now we can identify a lot of hegemonies in our past as well. For example, one of popular hegemony was British colonial rule. Even we were victims. Sri Lankans were victims, right? So that's one good example, right? And then the reason hegemony which command by United States, right? Now there's a one you can see quotation statement quoted here from Inogishi and Bacon in 2005 from his write-ups. So it says, if you could go through, it says what? It says American global power is one of the most significant and enduring features of contemporary international relations. The world has entered an era of American unipolarity. During the Cold War, the United States used its hegemonic power to underwrite an international order. Now, so this will have some political elements. So, but we will not go to elaborate a lot on that. But now, if you go through this statement, you could see how they interpret the power of US, right? Even later, you can go through these statements and see. And then now, so the things we know, the tools like this liberal market system, or the open markets, or this financial security alliances, and even this MNCs, multinational, multilateral corporations. So this so-called democracy, the interpretation of democracy. So these things usually used by United States, right? There are some tools used by United States to maintain the hegemony. And now, when it comes to South Asian countries, so what we can observe is, for example, this is not only the version of countries who got affected, especially first we can think of African nations as well, and even Latin American. So a lot of countries there. Now, so since we focus South Asian countries, we can observe that South Asian countries had influenced by different hegemonies, starting British hegemony, as I mentioned earlier, and even there were few hegemonies even after that. No, yes, Russian version likewise, and now even the Sondra statement also says about British hegemony, the colonial stage we had, and even now that's about Sri Lanka, and even I think you may heard about Afghanistan situation, because Afghanistan was militarized by US. It means so because referring to terrorist matters and all, so US send their army like and forces to Afghanistan, and then now it will see as invasion from US into one of another South Asian countries as well. But we cannot say that the most accurate statement. So we can say, but so that's what some ideologists say. So the United States invade Afghanistan throughout their power. So likewise, we can see some examples where South Asian countries have got affected from different hegemonies, right? Now, the problem we did study in our research was like this, right? So first we were like curious about this matter. What is that? How do we could identify the hegemonic stability? And especially then how we could identify this hegemonic stability or hegemonic power of a country referring to both material and normative powers. So this is the first question we had. So then how can we identify, can we classify, can we emphasize it with facts? Can we show that yes, this hegemonic matter is there, this hegemonic concept is there, right? So then for that we need to focus then the normative and material powers of countries. And then we have to do something, there is one problem. And then the other one is then what kind of consequences there, especially now here we focus Sri Lankan context, especially the post-war Sri Lankan context, post-war Sri Lankan development. Here post-war means after 2009, right? So then it's not 1948, it's about after 2009, that's what we call post-war, no, it's not post-independence. So then we did study post-war Sri Lankan development prospects and procedures and whether they are affected by the hegemonic concerns, global hegemonic matters. So that's the next problem. So then they are the key concerns we had, right? And then now throughout this, we had some objectives like this. One was to identify the difference between hegemonies and subordinate states. I mean, then to differentiate, okay, so then how we could differentiate hegemonies and the periphery countries or subordinate other countries who are getting affected by hegemonies, right? So then for that we use some tools, some here materials like material tools like domestic production, population, and military expenditure, right? And then also to identify the difference between global hegemony and the alternative hegemonies, which we can find the sample. It means even whether we can see now there will be a global hegemony, one particular rule, I mean controller, and then whether we can see some other potential hegemonies, because now here the concern is now what's happening in China and even in South Asia, India, right? So they are big powerful countries now. So then whether they have these hegemonic potentials to be a hegemony in future, kind of. And then also to see or to examine the relationships between hegemonic powers and post-war economic discourses in Sri Lanka. So then whether these hegemonic powers had any relationship with the things happened to our country after the war. So these are the objectives, right? And then we used a few techniques here. Basically, one of key techniques was this hierarchical cluster analysis. So it's like we are doing kind of, we gather information about this material powers of countries like GDP, military expenditure, and so on, and then we construct. We construct this dendrograms. Dendrogram means a kind of figure, kind of graph, but which is bit different. You may see it, so then these dendrograms will show us a clusterized analysis. So that will show the hierarchies of countries depends on their material powers. So that is what we call hierarchical cluster analysis. So that's the key ingredient, the key method we use, and also we use descriptive tools with some secondary data from different sources to move forward with our analysis, right? So now here, when it comes to sample, we use all South Asian countries for this analysis, plus China, US. Right? So our key focus is Sri Lanka, but even we are studying. So one of our objectives is about more hegemonic and so on. So distinguish hegemonic and periphery and so on. So then we use South Asian countries and China, US also there, and so some sources we used to collect data, second data, and then analysis. So this is what we call this hierarchical cluster analysis, dendrograms. So you can see one dendrogram here, right? So this dendrogram analyzed GDP of countries, and here this dendrogram shows the GDP cluster analysis for only for South Asian economies. Now, what you could see here, see now from this hierarchical cost analysis, we can see especially India showcase different position than other countries. We have a higher gap, right? You could see it in the figure. So India showcased that we are different from other countries in South Asia, even then Pakistan. And then Sri Lanka, Bangladesh in a one package, and then we have Nepal, Afghanistan, Bhutan, and these countries in another package. So this is what we observe through GDP production as a normal material power, right? And then what we did, we include both US and Chinese version into this GDP cluster analysis and see what we got. Then we got, rather than India, now how strong US and China. You can see it clearly here as well. See, so US and China were like gigantic once you compare with South Asia, even bigger than India when it comes to their strength from this cluster analysis, their deviation from the cluster analysis. And even US and China are in a particular combination, and they are totally different from South Asian economies. They show a huge difference, right? Now, see, now these things show us now then from the power of production how different they are, right? How different they are. And then this about population. Okay, so then now in this case we include the US, China also, and when it's called population, of course, the strength of population thoroughly with India and China. So then, as a result, they were in the separate cluster, and US they are in with Bangladesh and Pakistan, and then the other countries are in another package. So then depends on the number of people or the population, we can see such an analysis, right? And the next thing is about military expenditure, right? Now, when it comes to military expenditure, see, still US even greater than or above, far beyond China, right? Now, we saw China and US got clustered together when it comes to GDP. Though, when it comes to military expenditure, still US the biggest, right? US got the best, whatever material power in this sense. And China the second, and then you can see India and the other countries, right? So now see, this is what about power, and this is how this showcase that who is of course the hegemony, right? So then US got military power and even the power production. When it's called population, they are not the biggest, but when it's come to their technology and all, that's not a problem. So they are still the hegemony. And the China got power of people, population. So that's where they are trying to get a lot of advantages, and even, but still they are struggling a bit to advance the military power the US got. But that is what they are trying to, right? They are trying to maybe. So that's eventually now this was happening in 2015, this study. And if you did it now, if you can do another version for recent data, we can observe maybe differences, right? Maybe we can observe differences. Maybe we may find interesting movement from China or India, whatever. So it's possible, right? And then now when it comes to US, from the previous analysis says okay, so then through material power, of course, US got positioned to be the hegemony yet. And China in the middle, it seems like it's moving towards, isn't it? And even India seems like the hegemony in South Asia. One we analyze. And then not only the material power, see the normative power US got. Think of the whole movie culture. Still US dominating, right? So throughout the movie culture, do you know to what extent they provide normative, nudges or elements towards our people to show that they are the power? So, for example, a film like Olympus Has Fallen. I don't know whether you watch it. So, I will recommend you can watch it and then see how they try to emphasize their own power, their capacity, their strength, their motivation, attitude, and this film is the all-time show that show how strong US is and we are the global power. That's what they are saying. We are the hegemony, man. So that's what they are saying. And then even people like him, who is that? Do you know who is this person? Can anyone try? Do you know who is this person? He's a bit old version of American strength, we call him James Bond. And even later we say James Bond. So James Bond, right? So James Bond was the classical example, the classical actor who represent the American strength. James Bond never failed, and he always represent America, right? He always represent American strength, and he never failed, right? In any movie, he is not failing. He is always successful. It's like that indirectly showing that. So how America would reach things, would win things likewise. And then later we have this Marvel series, different Marvel series like Captain America, and this the whole series. What we call it? The collection of this group. What we call it? Maybe you all watch these things, no? So this all try to show the power of America even in that version as well. This the combination of Hulk and America, Doctor Strange, and this all and so on, so on, so on, right? So that film series even try to show the power of the normative power, and not only this. I just use this as an example, but even you can think of more things like media. So how media perform, how media showcase, right? And even you can see most of factors like that, normative factors, even religious factors, even some other cultural practices. Even if you see a T-shirt with printed US, things and all, so that even promote their normative hegemonic concept, right? So we have a lot of things there. We will never expect that will promote their hegemonic saying, but that promote. So that's another feature. So still US got this than China, where China also tried to invade it. Over time. Right. Any ideas or any use from you or any things from your side that could add the value for our discussion here?
Up to now, it's clear, sir.
Okay. And then further, now we used some data for particular time period where we assess this post-war situation, and we had some this data sets, and this says about, you can see debt, external debt, and now what we can see here is simply, if we calculate the cumulative differences before and after war, growth of debt, the amount we purchase, right, the growth of external debt we obtain, especially from countries like US and even from these powerful countries, was increased rapidly. And even from the simple picture, you can see some trend, isn't it? So after the war, so this red line show you where the end of civil war. And after that, what you could see? We could see, so we are climbing the mountain in a higher degree now, right? It means we are getting more debt after the war. So why it's happening? Nowadays you could see now that days we analyze this will be in future a problem, and now it's exactly happened, right? Okay, so this is not only one. This is only one factor, right? And then even now the same time, for example, the countries who got power provide us concessionary loan, non-concessionary loans. At the same time, they on that time they made some sanction on us as well. So what was the sanction they made? For example, US made on us during that time. That time they put what we call this GSP plus cancellation. If you could remember, when it's come after 2010, they said now we are not giving you GSP plus because of war crimes and so on thing was there. However, this cancellation of GSP plus affected us seriously. You see how exports decline because of that, right? Especially now, this one shows Sri Lanka exports to US. So Sri Lankan exports in general, so where you can see it's right slump, like sudden decrease. Because we lost GSP plus, then our one of the export is textiles, we know. So then disaster, right? Suddenly drops. And anyhow, finally later we got GSP plus back again, right? So by that time, I think we didn't got it. Later, after our research, I think around 2015, 16, I think we got it back, isn't it? So anyhow, so this is what we can observe, right? And now what you could see, they provide us debt rapidly. At the same time, they put different sanctions on our exports, our production. So how we will lead them, right? So we are getting into a trap. So we are slowly moving towards the debt trap, and now of course now we all done. So now we all know what happened. All right. Now we are wondering how to recover. Okay. So this even shows now even the problem with the GSP plus problem. So 2010 they put the sanction, and then before that especially this European Union played a key role in this sanction. And then they thoroughly decrease the benefit, and then our exports declined significantly, right? That's what. And so even this one even says composition of our imports. Now when it comes to imports, we import from India, China. By that time they were the key categories. And so even we know this India, China, they are in one is the regional hegemony, and one is the hegemony who is looking forward to be the global hegemony next, right? So always when it comes to this data, this featuring facts, what we can see is hegemony is playing significant role everywhere, right? They play different dramas very nicely everywhere, right? So now then these all things finally what show us that the US has a specific power. That's why they are global hegemony. Even we saw it from the cost analysis, and even from other normative powers, and even from other discussion as well. And China demonstrate early signs of another global hegemony. Now by that time we said it, but now even we have more. Now we can see, like, now we will accept that, isn't it? China seems rapidly approaching that. Even we have different, I don't know, we say conspiracy theories sometimes, like COVID. So they intentionally expose that, and then because their hegemonic aspects and their maritime strategy, so which is going around South Asia and Asian countries. So they are approaching that, isn't it? And then India seems like the featuring regional hegemony in South Asia, and even we found this military power seems like the impressive and decisive determinant, which still maintains hegemony stability of a US based system. And but this is not only the feature. So there's another research I will show where what else the features are, right? But this seems like very important feature according to our cluster analysis here. And even different hegemonies with different features, different proxies to materialize their stability, that we can say. And then it's called Sri Lankan context. So we got affected, as we discussed, from different hegemonies. Timely, now China used different proxies like debt dumping and Chinese aid likewise, and even the United States used proxies like organizations. Nowadays, even it's going on IMF and even mass media, MNCs, multinational corporations. So they are using the US strategy. So there was a nice discussion. I think I don't know BBC or somewhere. Because after this, still is going on. So it's referring to the Ukrainian war, and that interview said, so how strong this what we call, there was a nice term, it says not unpopular, unconventional weapons of the United States. So now this is not about Russia. It's about US. How US use unconventional weapons to materialize their power, yet still having different wars here and there. So the popular weapons are World Bank, IMF, and even Organization for Economic OEDC, Economic Development and Cooperation. So OCED, so Economic Cooperation and Development. So these are some institutions. They act as unconventional weapon for US, right? So even here, even we highlight that fact. Even IMF. So now when it's called IMF was initiated. Now I will discuss it in the next phase in detail. To support countries, especially to support these poor countries or periphery countries when they are in a financial problem, right? But then there was a lot of studies, even these theories, this world system theory, even some other research work later even try to show that this IMF itself controlling countries being developed. So that will prove the relevance of the dependency and world system theories, right? So then the IMF also highlight as one of unconventional weapon used by US to control other regions while achieving their global power or being developing and to maintain the system distinction. So a lot of such discourses are there, but they all are discourses, arguments, opinions. So it's our own responsibility to search more about that, research about this, and to see whether exactly we will observe such things, right? Now then I will move forward for next category. Now earlier we discussed about this hegemonic power and how this hegemonic power will support us. To say that still we seems like some prevalence or some relevance from the concept we discussed under dependency theory as well as the world system theory, right? And then it's about new international financial architecture, or we call this NIFA. So this is another important matter or another important thing. Now, so basically from this term you could recognize it's about financial something, right? So we call financial architecture, or in general we call new international financial architecture, or NIFA. So do you have any readings about this? Do you ever heard of NIFA earlier? Any ideas, any thoughts about this new international financial architecture?
No, sir.
Okay. So this is also really important to identify, right? So even we had the research on this. So now I will start it this way with these two funny pictures as well. So it says, what next with NIFA? That means what next with new international financial architecture. So I'm going to refer to another research I did with a Bhutanese researcher, Kinga Jordan, and we published in 2016. And it says, the research paper says, what next with NIFA? A lesson from trends and contests behind the currency convergence in South Asia, right? So anyhow, so I will use this research outputs to our discussion to see whether we have more evidences to say that this dependency theory and the structural world system theories and the essence of their theories are still relevant, or whether they are happening, whether they are, of course, reliable, or whether they are there, right? Now, when it comes to this NIFA, so I will start it here. I will start it from the Bretton Woods Monterey Conference in 1944, which was placed in Mount Washington Hotel in 1944. Now, what about this? What was about this Bretton Woods Monterey Conference? So, do you know anything about this thing? Do you heard anything about this Bretton Woods Monterey Conference which was held in Mount Washington Hotel in 1944? This was very important conference which accumulate leading decision makers and economists from all countries to decide new monetary agenda for the global context, right? So then this is one of very important, very decisive meetings, conferences we had in our global history. And now what's the reason behind this, motivation behind this conference? Because now before this conference, there was problems with financial stabilities for different countries, and then even to identify so which country performing well and who is rich and who is poor, so on. Problems was there because different countries use different methods to indicate their wealthiness, right? Now then they thought better having a common method. Even they found that their currency, the wealthiness, the values are depreciating from their own methods. And then from this conference, finally they agreed on very specific, not only one, few specific decisions. One is use of, we call it, sorry. So even before that, so you see, I will go through this picture as well. So you can see the people who attend. For example, who is in the middle? Can you guess? Who represented UK? And even you can see USSR and UK having a very friendly chat, no? So they were like clashing during that time anyhow. So who represent UK? So
Winston Churchill.
No, not Churchill. You all know him very well. Maybe the direction will not show him clearly. He is John Maynard Keynes, right? So you all know him very well, isn't it? So Keynes here. So Keynes represents UK, right? So then you see the strength of people who attend this conference. The father of modern monetary economy, modern macroeconomics attend this conference. So likewise, with all other people, you can even search who represent USSR. He also a very strong figure. So I will let you to search more about these people, right? So then they decide this. They were the people who decide this, right, for this global agenda. So what they decide, one of their decision is to use this. What is this? We call it gold standard. We call it gold standard. Now, what was happening in general? Most of countries accumulate their wealth in gold, right? So they collect a lot of gold, even motivated by mercantilistic ideas and all. Even they accumulate a lot of gold. So that's what they call rich. And now they all need to measure, of course, who is actually rich. Then for that they use this gold standard. So what means gold standard? So now for this gold standard, they need one currency. So then they use the US currency to measure this gold standard. So at that time you can see here, they set the gold standard at $35 for an ounce of gold, right? So then that is how. So then they value $35 for 1 ounce of gold, and then they use it as the monetary measurement, right? So then they convert all wealth, I mean all gold stocks of countries using this measurement, and then they are weak. So then the US dollar as the backbone of this international exchange. So then this seems a really good thing for US, isn't it? What do you think? So they lead this meeting, and even though John Maynard Keynes was there, so they didn't use British pound, rather they went for US dollar, right? Because US dollar was even the popular currency that time as well. So even in 1944, right? Yes, even still now it's happening. So anyhow, so they use this standard, right? And then using this standard, they measure wealthiness of countries. And eventually later, when it's called 1970s, 60s, 70s, US identify, or the United States recognize that countries like Germany accumulating wealth very fast or rapidly, right? Then they recognize that their wealthiness in US dollars seems like greater, higher. So then now once they having this wealth in terms of US dollars, and practically what is happening is, so then so the German seems having majority of dollars than US normatively, because the German got the highest wealth that time, even than the US. So now this was a problem for US, right? Because from their currency in terms, they are weaker than German. Think of that, right? So then, because of such things, in 1971, it also a very popular incident. One of very famous US presidents, Robert Nixon, had a public media what we call disclosure, and said, from today onwards, we will pull out US dollar from this particular gold standard metal. So I will play that for you, right? So we'll see how we mention it.
The third indispensable element in building the new prosperity is closely related to creating new jobs and halting inflation. We must protect the position of the American dollar as a pillar of monetary stability around the world. In the past 7 years, there's been an average of one international monetary crisis every year. Now, who gains from these crises? Not the working man, not the investor, not the real producers of wealth. The gainers are the international money speculators. Because they thrive on crises, they help to create them. In recent weeks, the speculators have been waging an all-out war on the American dollar. The strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. Now, what is this action, which is very technical, what does it mean for you? Let me lay to rest the bugaboo of what is called devaluation. If you want to buy a foreign car or take a trip abroad, market conditions may cause your dollar to buy slightly less. But if you are among the overwhelming majority of Americans who buy American-made products in America, your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow as it is today. The effect of this action, in other words, will be to stabilize the dollar. Now, this action will not win us any friends among the international money traders. But our primary concern is with the American workers and with fair competition around the world. To our friends abroad, including the many responsible members of the international banking community who are dedicated to stability in the flow of trade, I give this assurance. The United States has always been and will continue to be a forward-looking and trustworthy trading partner. In full cooperation with the International Monetary Fund and those who trade with us, we will press for the necessary reforms to set up an urgently needed new international monetary system. Stability and equal treatment is in everybody's best interest. I am determined that the American dollar must never again be a hostage in the hands of international speculators. I'm taking one further step to protect the dollar, to improve our balance of payments, and to increase jobs for Americans. As a temporary measure, I am today imposing an additional tax of 10% on goods imported into the United States. This is a better solution for international trade than direct controls on the amount of imports. This import tax is a temporary action. It isn't directed against any other country. It's an action to make certain that American products will not be at a disadvantage because of unfair exchange rates. When the unfair treatment is ended, the import tax will end as well. As a result of these actions, the product of American labor will be more competitive, and the unfair edge that some of our foreign competition has will be removed. This is a major reason why our trade balance has eroded over the past 15 years.
Okay, so
The third
that is what, right? So after that statement, US officially decided to move out from or to avoid this gold standard whatever mechanism, and they said so we will be individual even with some import restrictions and so on things. And so anyhow with that decision, Nixon survived US dollar, right? And now after that, now then a lot of debates happen. Now US move out and then now system in the problem, so then this gold standard not works now because US was the king and currency of this system even. And then after this day, now the whole global systems are looking forward for new version, right? Now even so now even this time along there was some crisis situations as well. So for example, you could see this Mexican crisis and Asian crisis. So even now this crisis is also used as another factor from the global community to say we need a new system, right? And then the report of the task force of the Executive Committee on Economic and Social Affairs of the United States in 1999 said, so we'll introduce new framework to stabilize the global financial problems, and they said it is new international financial architecture, and which was introduced as a framework to prevent happening crises across the globe, right? So that's what they said. Anyhow, practically what was happening is this new international financial architecture works as a system which of course highlight that US can lead the whole currency regime globally, financial regime globally, right? So I will show you now further information. Now, for example, even there was a summit in 1990. So this is where, of course, the decision taken about this, NEPA and the application of NEPA. So from the summit for Group of Seven, so still this Group of Seven is there, isn't it? And then, so they introduced and even the instructed their finance ministers to work towards new so-called financial structure. So that is what later be the NEPA. And so they highlight some key areas throughout this structure. So you can see these things in red color here, highlighted in red. So now see these facts. They say increasing the transparency of countries' data and economic conditions, helping countries prepare for global capital flows, strengthening the national financial systems, ensuring that the private sector takes responsibility for its decisions when crisis strikes. So now basically what they are trying to say is, so once we have a global financial structure, architecture, that will prevent countries getting into crisis situations. That is what they mentioned, right? That is what they mentioned. So then they say this is a support system. But we have evidences to say that that is not happening. For example, think of the financial crisis in 2008-9, which was happening in the United States itself. And because of that downturn of the financial strength of US, and even that created a global impact. Even the China was affected from this problem that time, right? China also got affected from the US financial crisis in 2008-9, because even Chinese believed on US dollar than their own currency that time, right? And then think of other countries too, how they were affected, right? So that is one incident. That was one incident. And then even we can think of, for example, now we have a very good example in Sri Lanka now, right? So think of our own crisis. So now when it's got our own crisis, so now as they mentioned, did this system secure ourselves while preventing from crisis? Rather, because of this dollar, now we are in a problem, right? Because of this dollar, since we peg on dollar, since we believe on dollar, now we are experiencing a lot of problems, because we know our inflation, if we study carefully about our inflation is not purely because of this, it's not almost because of this money printing mechanism, right? That's also there, but that's not the only reason. The one of key reason where behind the reason uplift in inflation was or is even what, because we had significant enhancements in the amount we need to pay for our imports, because our rupee depreciated significantly, and then even for import things like for fuel and for other things, for gasoline and even for kerosene or whatever things, we need to pay 2 times, 3 times than what we paid earlier, right? And then, so they are the things run our system in Sri Lanka. So we need fuel for electricity, we need fuel for transportation, we need fuel for a lot of things, and then the whole cost increase. Even that's why the cost of bakery products increased that time, right? So the fuel cost, transportation problems, even now that's why, isn't it? So these all things all together push inflation further, and still we are in a kind of a hyperinflation now. So we are in a problem now. So now anyhow, just from these facts, even if you search further, what is revealed, what you can see, dollar put us in a trouble since like, right? And then now we saw this in 2016, even before 16, so published in 16, and then what we thought of de-dollarization, right? Okay, so now seems like, so now we refer to financial crisis especially, right, which was happened in United States in 2008-9, and so what we said, what we even thought of studying is, now if we depends on this financial architecture, we are in troubles, we are in problems, right? So then now we have to focus something else, like something for de-dollarization, something to move out from this architecture. So then what we thought of to see whether we can go for a common currency for South Asia, like what is happening in Europe, right? So the common currency is Euro. So in Europe, so-called European Union having their own currency, which is Euro, and this Euro try to be independent from dollar. So because of that, they are having their own system. They are trying to maintain their own system in European countries, rather depending on US dollar, or rather using US dollar as the key currency. So they are using Euro as their key term of exchange, right? So then now, so we thought of, okay, checking potential of having a common currency for South Asia, and but we have some concerns, because South Asia is one of least integrated regions in the whole globe by that time as well. But yet we thought of studying any potentials to have a common currency for South Asia, right? So then we go through different, this, even you are working on such things, in your dissertation. Likewise, we went through different sources, and we found how this currency regime and how these things affected the global countries and even the South Asian countries, and even and how things what are the repercussions? Are they good or bad with the NIFA, and even especially in the financial crisis, how the countries affected, and so on, so on things. And then finally, we found seems like it's not good. Yeah, we got a lot of, not only Sri Lanka, right? So we focus all South Asian nations. So even including India, South Asian nations got troubles because of this financial crisis. And then basically, we planned then to check whether we can go for currency convergence for South Asia, right? And even initially we have checked whether it's a currency convergence or divergence, because we don't know. So whether we can accumulate all our currencies into one currency as a region. So then first, of course, we need to observe whether we have a trend for currency convergence or divergence, right? So that is what we first focus. And then we focus, okay, so then if we have currency convergence as a trend, so then whether we can go for a common currency, right? So whether we can find the co-movements of different currencies in South Asia, and whether we can go. So then for that, what we did, of course, then now we have to check with the prevailing currency, So because we are going for comparative advantages usually, right? So then now if our plan to go for a common currency for South Asia, relatively expensive or relatively not good or not productive for the countries when compared with pegging on US dollar, then though we have possibility for go for a common currency, it's useless, because then if it is worse than US dollar, so then why we are going for that? So then we have to check that comparatively as well. So we have to see the price for movements of South Asian countries with US and even with other South Asian the countries altogether. And so then even for this we use that cluster analysis for initial understandings, that dendrograms, right? And also especially we use this second order auto regression process, time series technique. So since I think we didn't discuss time series in our econometrics class, right? So then you may not familiar with this, but so this is one of time series technique where we could identify this movements of information data, and so then throughout this we are trying to measure currency co-movements of South Asian countries, and then using that we of course calculate index. So this is the auto-regressive process, and then we use this calculation, right? So where here we calculate the co-movements of currencies. So this is the important indicator finally that we can use to see in relative to America, US, and the other countries in South Asia, and to see whether we can go for a common currency with South Asian countries or in common with countries rather going for US dollar, right? So then throughout this index calculation for US and for other countries, we can check it. And now here for this calculation, here we use Sri Lanka as the base country. I mean, base means Sri Lanka as the control variable, which means we use Sri Lankan currency in comparison with other countries, right? And even the US. Then when it comes to outcomes, so initially we found things like this. Now this is in terms of the movements of our exchange rates, right? So now here what we show is now our movements in exchange rates are getting diverse once we kept them in US dollars, right? Now over time, even after financial crisis, things seems like worsen, right? So now our exchange rates, they are, I mean, moving away rather getting together, since we depends on US dollar, since we depends on financial architecture, because we give them in US dollars, in general for all countries, we convert this all value to US dollars and then we compare. So then what we see is eventually, now earlier we had some, even you can see here, earlier in 1970s, 80s, our currencies are more similar. Exchange rates are more parallel in terms of their movement. But later we have more dynamic movements, which means this dependency on US dollar led us as a region to diverge further, to move away further, right? Now then that motivates us to see, okay, so then if we de-dollarize, if we move away from dollar, so then whether we can, if we try out for common currency, if we let our currencies to take on our own South Asian currencies comparatively, so then whether we can go for a convergence. That is what we thought we attempt, and some summary stat, and then some analysis here. Now in this from this analysis, what we found is like so we use this data, the financial exchange rate data and financial data, and we cluster them into different matters. Now we use two different time periods. So this is from 1972 to 2007, the time period before financial crisis in the United States. And then here what we can see is Afghanistan and Sri Lankan currencies are a bit away from other currencies, and the clustering mechanism has such mode. And then once we go for after financial crisis, even the divergence are further. So even more countries now getting into more diverse clusters, right? So then we got kind of simple idea from this clustering that the hierarchic clustering distance are getting greater and greater even after financial crisis, right? And then this is what we call the important calculation, the currency core movements. Now, so we calculate currency core movement for all countries, and we compare with US dollar and Indian rupee, right? So we calculate so how Bangladesh core movement with US dollar and Indian rupee, Bhutan with the US dollar and Indian, likewise even for Sri Lanka, right? So now here India will not compare with it, that's why there's a dash. And then now in this analysis, so once the core movement is lower, that is good. So core movement means, so once the value is lower, then it says we are more converging, right? And then what we found is, in general, for most of countries, the value for core movement is lower with India, right? Okay, so for example, you see now for Bangladesh, even the core movement value which is higher with US dollar rather than Indian rupee, right? You can see Bhutan, same. India, so India is US dollar by 2.23, and then Nepal, you see Nepal is like huge difference, right? With India, they are doing very well. So even Nepal is a part of India, so we may have that vision. Kind of, we can't say part of India, but they are like very closer to India, and then maybe they trade, all things happen with mutual. And then Pakistan, even see, so Pakistan is even have very good advantage, right? Being with Indian, and then Sri Lanka also there. So then in altogether we got we saw that rather depending on US dollar, if we depend on Indian rupee, right, we are in a better stage. We are in a better movement. So then our exchange rates are not depreciating that much. Our exchange rates are not diverging that much, right? So then out of this, what we recommend is, so it seems we better try out Indian currency as our common key currency. So then it's like now, so what we said is out of this outcome is, now we cannot create something like euro having we are not developed like that now. So rather, if we could depend on Indian rupee, if you use the currency, Indian currency as our common currency, so then that will provide us better outcomes than the dependency on US dollar. So this is what we, of course, mentioned. This is our finding, and then we present it in India. in the South Asian University, and there was, these all communities from Pakistan, Bhutan, here and there, and so what Pakistan said exactly was, no, we cannot do this. How we could go with India? How we let India to be the currency king? So why using their currency, right? And even this geopolitical conflict, of course, there. So that's why we say we are least integrated region, and then that's the response we got. So how practically these countries will get together and go for Indian currency, and then even they said India will be the next hegemony, and then so we are like presenting them like, so we are giving them the power. Voluntary kind of thing happened with this. So this was this was what we got from the comments. So now then what it exactly says is, now if we try to move out from a system, right? So we will trap in another system in a way. So now if we go out from US dollar, if we need to dollarize, then it seems like we need to depend on India then. So Indian rupee, right? So still even this our outcomes, our findings even still show that still we have depend on other currencies or others values or others perceptions or with others businesses, with others production. Seems even altogether this NIPA is one of very important tool that the hegemonic stability maintains, right? So this currency, the US, the US dollar as the anchor currency is one of very important tool that US use to maintain their use of the distance with other countries, and even to maintain their hierarchical sense. Even China trying to do this, right? So nowadays, even you could see China trying to give us loans or money things on their own currency rather through US dollar. So because these attempts, why these attempts there? So because of this matters. So they all try to provide their means of power or to use their means of power to establish their positions. And these all countries, China, this all in US and even the Western countries and all, so they are the core, the center of center, even the periphery of center. So they try to maintain the global system anyhow. Even the outcomes shows that we are leading towards that. So it's like, so we are kind of cat four state, right? So we are proxy states. So these periphery countries do not have a survival mechanism from their own itself, because maybe this so-called globalization, the financial architectures, and even the economic situations and all, and so on conditions, production systems and all, this all still seems like maintaining this matter, maintaining these features which highlighted with the systems theory. Seems like we have different versions of countries, right? Seems like we have this class maintains even the capitalist structure maintains altogether. So that's what I would observe from our attempts as well. But still, we cannot, completely say, we cannot come up with 100% statement saying that still it's relevant. Rather, we have to do more research to see it, right? We have to do more research to see it. And even when it's come to further discussion with the other topics, even you can see to what extent you will see now the criticisms on these theories, and even so once we learn more other development concepts, theories, even practical approaches, once we go through different research work, you may see, okay, what are the other approaches, what are novel approaches that we can think of while identifying the global scenario and development and the problems with the development and so on, etc. as well, right? So that is what from the plan which I made for today. And so if anything is not clear, or if you have any questions, and if you have any thought-provoking ideas from your readings, any ideas or whatever, feel free to say. So this is going to be our Q&A session. I mean, time for Q&A rather session. So feel free to share your ideas, or questions, or concerns, or if you have anything to add. Now I will end up this session with a question, even because I ask you to search more about this. Now with the context I present you, with our research and even the things I presented here, will say things about the relevance of dependency theory as well as the world systems theory, but still you can research more. You can go through more things, more materials, and search further. Go for more recent data. Even you can try out this research work. You can duplicate such research and see whether it's happening now, what's going on now. Even so, likewise, you can see further whether you can agree on this, or whether we have differences now with the recent scenarios. Whether we are having taught a different story now when compared with these things revealed in system theory or dependency theory, right? So that's up to you. And so feel free to ask questions. And now I hope you all ready for your discussion class tomorrow, right? So tomorrow I think it's 6 to 7 or 7 to 6, 7 to 8, right? So then tomorrow Mithusan and who is the other one going to present, as I mentioned? So Mithusan, did you contact the other presenter?
Yes, yeah, I informed him. I think Prasanga.
Okay,
He
great.
will do it.
Sure. Then great. Since he is not here today, right? At the moment. Okay. So anyway, so then both you need to. You are the discussion leaders, right? So you are going to be the presenters. You are going to be the people who are handling the discussion class tomorrow, and even I will be there, and so the instructor will be there, and so we'll have the recording as well, and we'll upload the recording of the discussion class. Yeah, you can later see your performances as well. You can later see your teaching skill or whatever you're teaching, whatever you taught in our tomorrow discussion class. And then for the next class, we need to get ready, right? So this is for next discussion leadership. And what we have to do is a review on documentary. So now you may see I upload 2 documentaries into the Moodle, right? So you all can watch them, and especially the next 2 discussion leaders needs to watch them. So then even I am not asking each person to watch. I would say both. You have to watch both, but so we need 2 reviews, right? So one review will take 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and so these are the 2 documentaries. So documentary 1 is about the new rulers of the world, a BBC documentary by John Pilger. So he's one of very popular person, what we call journalist that time. And then the review 2 on the DW documentary titled The Business of Our Data, Rise of Mega Corporations. So even I recommend you all to watch these 2 before the next discussion and come up with your thought-provoking ideas. And especially the next 2 presenters need to go through these things, and then review 1 should done by 1 person, review 2 will done by 1 person, the next person, and you have to go through the particular video documentary, and then you have to scan it, and you have to find out important elements, and you have to add your own values, taste, and then you will present it to the, you will review it to the this classroom, right? So then even you can search how to review a movie or how to review a documentary. So then you have to get important facts from that documentary, and then you have to present them. So that is what you have to do. So then now I am not going to ask who is volunteering, rather, so according to the registration numbers, so first 2 individuals need to do this, right? Tomorrow the Mithusan and other one will do, but after that we are going to use registration number order. So then, so first 2 according to the registration number order, need to present these 2 reviews, right? So then it means you have to do this review using your time and get ready with the presentation. Come up with nice, attractive one with more facts, data, information here and there, and then engage with the sessions, discussion. That is what. Hope this information will proceed towards these 2 individuals. So what are the registration numbers? If someone know the first 2 registration numbers, what are they? I will even mention it later in Moodle as well. The 2 registration numbers. So then the first 2 registration numbers holders going to be the discussion leaders for next week session, right? And I am waiting to see this session also. So tomorrow hope we will have a nice session, and then this session will also be interesting. And even in the middle, I am going to go for a movie watching time with you all. I need to watch a movie. I need to. So then it's like one option would be like I can play the movie, having a time slot for where all of us can join and watch the movie, and then I am going to present a review on that movie for you all, right? For that, I need a different time slot. So the movie going to be the movie titled Deeply Live, an Indian movie which produced by Amir Khan. So I will say all facts when I am revealing that movie after we watch it. I don't know whether if someone watch it, then you may know the content of that film. So that will give us a lot of lessons about development and so on things more. So which will be very interesting for us to discuss. So later you can think of a possible time for that movie watching time, and then let me know. So we'll gather and I will play the movie so you can watch it, and then I will review it. Okay. So we'll do that as well. Okay, so that is what for today, and thank you very much for attending the second session for development economics today, and we'll meet with the third session next week, where we'll go for another important and interesting topic. Right. So thanks and good night.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
You are welcome.
Thank you, sir.